Hello everyone, good morning, hope you're well, hope you're keeping safe and I hope you're keeping sane. Before I go on to the topic of today's video, let's talk about live streams. Thank you to anyone who tried to tune in or tuned into one of my doomed live streams last night. Sorry to have wasted your time. I kind of wanted to do one last night, but then what happened was my mate messaged me and said, I want to talk, are you about for a couple of beers? So I met him in the pub, he's having a bit of a bad time of it. We had a couple of beers, had a couple more. Then got stuck in the middle of the rain under an umbrella in the middle of the pub garden. So I had a choice. Do I walk home in the rain or do I stay and have a few more pints of Stella? And to anyone who did tune into the ill-fated live streams last night, you'll know exactly what option I chose. So I came home, a couple of stabs at having a live stream, blighted by lighting and sound issues, and then the wife came home. So what I'm going to try and do, once I've found out what I've got planned for the weekend, I will try and schedule a live stream here on YouTube. I'll try and use the scheduling function, so you'll be able to see, if you're subscribed to the channel, when that's likely to be. And then obviously you can pop along and say hello or ask a question or do whatever you want to do. So yes, my apologies if you came in last night and expected some great, deep and meaningful live stream with Phil. But yeah, it's kind of doomed, wasn't it? But thanks for tuning in nonetheless. I very much appreciate it. On to the topic of today's video, which is kind of red flags, really. I want to talk about things that maybe if you're gambling, you should be aware of, mainly because I wish I was aware of them at the time. There might be a little bit of a red flag that you're either developing a gambling problem or certainly that you are susceptible or vulnerable to developing a gambling problem. As always, the reason I talk about this is because it's something that I would have liked to have heard about 3 or 4 years ago when I was in the midst of a gambling addiction, or certainly actually probably years before that, to be completely honest, because it might have been something that would have triggered something within me to identify my problem and resolve my gambling problem or get into recovery that bit sooner. So, as always, it doesn't come from a high horse or a place of perceived superiority. It comes from a place of having been there, done that, and borne the scars of this addiction. So, I don't think I'll do this in any particular order, but what I will start with is lying. And the reason I'll start with lying is it actually follows on from the theme of some of the more recent videos that I've done. Lying is an inherent part of a gambling addiction. It's a secretive addiction, and it's one that we're able to hide from people. And lying becomes an inherent part of our life. In fact, sometimes, as I was saying in a previous video, you almost become conditioned to lie, even when you don't have to. Even to this day, if my wife asks where I've been, my brain will immediately go into full-blown defensive mode and start formulating a lie before I can just tell her, well, actually, I've been up the road, or I've been at the shops, or I've been around my mates, or whatever, and come out with the actual truth that is in no way harmful. But my brain, as soon as it hears a question, it kind of springs into sort of, like I say, self-preservation mode, and, oh my God, what do I say? Even when actually there's nothing to say. So whilst a lie in itself might seem fairly innocuous, it might seem fairly insignificant, the very fact that you are choosing in some way to cover up what you are doing would imply not necessarily that you're worried about what that person's going to think, but I believe, more importantly, you're covering up what you think about what you're doing. You are considering your behaviour harmful or potentially harmful or concerning enough to lie about it. If you said, oh, well, I was in the bookies placing a bet, then the person you're speaking to might not care about the fact you're in the bookies placing a bet. But if you're saying, oh, I was at the shops, rather than you're in the bookies, then why are you lying about it? Why aren't you telling the truth? Obviously, there will be times when you are inherently lying to cover up something that the other person will not be happy to hear. So if you've lost the mortgage money, on the FOBTs, then you're going to immediately want to lie and try and explain away that gap in your finances in another way. I understand that, but sometimes we find ourselves lying, but it's actually really, I believe, more to ourselves because we believe it's a problem more so than we believe the other person's going to have a problem with what we're doing. So if you find yourself lying in any capacity to anyone about your gambling, then that should be a big red flag, because something in your brain is telling you that either that person's not going to approve, in which case why wouldn't they approve, or that in a sense you don't approve of your own actions, or you don't want to acknowledge what you're doing because you perceive it to be potentially harmful, potentially dangerous, and potentially a problem for you. Gambling when you should be doing something else. This is another massive red flag, and another one I was horribly guilty of. When you're sitting with your partner watching TV, or you're at dinner, or you're visiting family, or whatever you're doing, or whatever you can do under the current restrictions, and you're doing something else, you're sneaking a little bet on your phone, you're sneaking a little spin of roulette, you're playing slots in the background on half an eye, keeping an eye out in case you get a bonus while you're trying to watch a film. If you're doing that and you're distracting yourself from what you should be doing, then you have to ask yourself, are you actually enjoying the gambling, or are you enjoying what you're doing? And if you're enjoying neither, then why are you gambling? Why are you doing that? Why are you continuing to bet when it's not in any way kind of enjoyable, pleasurable, or you're getting anything back from it, but yet it is distracting from other parts of your life that you should be enjoying? And I'll add to that, being distracted by open bets. This is another one. Again, to be fair, I'm guilty of all of these. I think that's fairly safe to say. Where you're checking football scores, or you're checking golf scores, or you're checking the Albanian third division scores because you have an open bet on. And I think if you're being distracted by something that you have no interest in, that have significantly little interest in, that you're not really tracking it, you're literally just checking the scores to see how your bets are coming along, then that to me would indicate some element of problem. I mean, we've all seen those bet regret adverts, which I think are brilliant, where the guys bet on I think it was like the Albanian second division or whatever, wasn't it? And and I think that's the case. I found myself doing that quite a lot. I found myself sitting there, again, in a scenario where I was watching a film with my wife, or having dinner, or I'd out for dinner with friends or something, and you're sitting there like sneaking a look at your phone because you want to check on some football score in some league and some team that you've never heard of or don't care about because it's a bet. We do sometimes, as gamblers, try and disguise. Well, I did. So I'm sure there'll be others who did, but I sometimes try to disguise my betting activity as an interest in a sport. So I'd say, I have to watch Jeff Selling and the boys on a Saturday afternoon because I have a real deep interest in football, and I do have a bit of an interest in football. But when you're caring about a sort of National League team, and you want both teams to score in both halves or something, and you're getting excited about that, then this is clearly not about the football. Yes, that's a great excuse, isn't it? It's a great reason to explain to those around us why we're so insistent on this and why we're so distracted by the football scores and what have you. Because we love football, but we don't. We love betting. We might love football as well, but in most instances, when we are sitting there and we're distracted and we can't focus on the people around us and what we're actually supposed to be doing because we're checking scores, that's because of the gambling and the betting. That's not because of the sport. Being late or missing appointments or social events or social occasions, or turning up, late for things because you've been gambling. There is no excuse for this, really. It was something I did regularly, and I toyed with this one because I thought, well, actually, sometimes you just need to, you still turn up, but maybe you're a bit late because you're just finishing off a game. You're just finishing off, on a fob tee, or you're just rounding a balance up or rounding a balance down, or just doing your bollocks. But there's no justification for that. If you're needing to finish off a session of gambling, with the possible exception of a game of poker, but then I think you'd probably schedule that a bit better, wouldn't you? If you're having to finish off a session of gambling, then why do you have to finish it off? What are you doing? Are you trying to get to a certain balance? Are you trying to recover a balance? Are you chasing your losses? What is the need for that additional part of time that's going to make you late or going to make you miss an appointment or an occasion? It might seem it might seem reasonable to say, well, I turned up, I came, I just literally had to I just got my balance up to 500 quid, and then I was going to leave. Well, just why not take your £473.14 and leave then? If you feel the compulsion to continue, despite the fact it's going to make you late for something that, let's face it, is invariably going to be more important and more significant in your life than this, then that is a massive red flag. Like I say, it seemed very easy, again, like the sports thing, to excuse it and go, well, actually, I was just finishing off. but there's no need to just finish off unless you are looking to achieve something, or you're just doing what I used to do so often, which is a race to the bottom, and then you just want to hurry up and you want to lose the last of your balance so you can get out of there and get to where you're actually supposed to be. And that might ring true with some people. Often it's not about trying to get your money back, it's just about getting to a point where you can leave. And that point where I could leave so often was a loss. And if you are just trying to race to the bottom and you're not willing to just take a little bit of money back, you'd rather take nothing back, then that isn't a little red flag, that's a whacking great red semaphore flag that you should be very, very wary of. If you're wanting to just dispose of some balance just to finish off your gambling session, rather than just take the odd and actually use it for something, you'd rather just lose it because then it's done. That is a massive, massive red flag. And the biggest one, I think the biggest one of all, and I think the most important one of all, certainly in this context, is the fact you're watching this video. Now, you might be watching this video, to be fair, because you're worried about someone else's gambling, and I will actually make a video, might be the next one, about things to look out for in those around you, those closest to you. You know, maybe it might be your spouse, your partner that you're worried about their gambling. And I will have a sit down tonight and I'll have a think, and I'll write a list of things that I believe are possibly red flags for you to look out for. If you're worried about someone else's gambling, maybe there are things that you should keep an eye out for. And of course, this won't be definitive and it won't guarantee they have a gambling problem, but it will hopefully put you a little bit more on your guard and allow you to protect yourself a little bit more. But if you're watching this video, or any video from mine or anyone else on YouTube, or doing any kind of research and reading about problem gambling online, that to me would be a bit of a red flag that you're concerned about your own gambling. I mean, you may be dressing it up as research or whatever, but I always think if you ask yourself, whether or not you think you've got a problem with gambling, then it's probably not a question that needs asking. I think if at any point you are questioning your behaviour, then you're probably already past the point at which you really should have questioned your behaviour. I did it. By the time I got to the point and thought, hang on a minute, is gambling actually causing me a problem? I looked back and went, oh my God, my gambling's been causing me a problem for a long time. So I think if you're here and you're watching this, firstly, thank you, welcome, subscribe if you're new. But most importantly, if you're watching this or any kind of talk or content about gambling addiction or gambling recovery or problem gambling or anything like that, then that to me would be a big red flag. And look, now's a good time to sort of look retrospectively at maybe the above list of things you've done. Go to the Gamblers Anonymous page. There's I think it's a 15 question thing, pretty similar to what I just did, that said, have you ever done this, have you ever done this? And you'll be amazed at how many you've done. So do that, and hopefully that will give you some sort of motivation, inspiration, or plant a seed regards of recovery, or at least looking at ways in which you can control your gambling. But I hope that's interesting. I will, like I say, try and arrange a live stream over the weekend. It will be significantly better than the last ones, I promise. And until then, keep safe, keep sane, have a great Friday, and I'll catch you all soon. All the best.